Shabbat Shalom, my friends. Well, time is certainly moving rapidly. Before we meet again, Thanksgiving will have come and gone. And 2 weeks after that, the 2022 midterm elections might very well be concluded. At least that is our fervent prayer. If you ask me whether I will miss receiving 50 or 60 emergency fundraising emails each and every day, I will calmly respond, "Not on your life." I also mutter the ancient Hebrew prayer that thanks God for having saved me from a really unpleasant experience. Okay, our Sedra is Chayyei Sarah, Genesis 23:1 and following. The narrative in our Sedra is just extremely well known to most of us. Following the Akedah, the attempted sacrifice of Isaac, Sarah dies. The rabbi strongly wondered whether there was a linkage here, that when Sarah found out what her husband Abraham had attempted to do, she collapsed and died. In any event, Abraham now purchases an achuzat kever, a burial plot in Hebron, in the cave of Machpelah. But now, having done this, our patriarch faces a very pressing task: to find a suitable wife for his younger son, Isaac. Abraham orders the senior servant in his household to find a woman who was specifically not from the local Canaanite tribes, but rather to find her back in the original land from which Abraham came. We read now how the servant meets Rebekah, a totally appropriate candidate, beautiful, well-connected. She's even Abraham's grandniece, of marriageable age, and exceedingly caring toward her guest and toward the animals he had brought with him. Side note, please be aware that whenever important meetings occur in the Torah alongside of a well, love is definitely in the air. I don't know why, I don't know how. Well, meetings, love. Rather quickly, the servant is introduced to Rebekah's family, and after a proper exchange of costly gifts, the deal is struck. Rebekah now returns with the servant to Canaan, and we read this in the text. And Isaac brought Rebekah into the tent of his mother Sarah. He took Rebekah, she became his wife, and he loved her. As countless as the stars in the heavens are the rabbinic sermons emphasizing from this that real love, true love, is something that flourishes only as the couple deepens their understandings of each other. Love at first sight does not fare well in rabbinic writings. Well, so what do we have here? There are stories within stories, wheels within wheels in our Sedra. We have no need here to debate the historicity of these stories. That would probably be an unprofitable diversion for all except Bible scholars. It might be far more useful for us to come to an awareness as to how these stories have shaped and continue to shape the spiritual and communal nature of the Jewish community. We today are not the passive heirs of the book of Genesis. In so many ways, our contemporary values continue to find their origin here. Take the person of Rebekah, for example. In the words of Rabbi Shai, she was a very complicated human being. Indeed, she was. So, a stranger shows up at the well. Rebekah doesn't stand on ceremony. She extends care and sustenance for the stranger as well as for his beasts. Intuitively, she knew what he wanted, she knew what he needed, and she responded, frankly, just the way Abraham responded when those 3 strangers showed up at his tent. Abraham hastened to care for the strangers. Hastened. Rebekah hastened to care for the stranger. She didn't know that a traumatized, damaged Isaac was in her future, desperate for support and love. She was just a caring person, doing what she always did naturally. And when her relatives suggested that Rebekah wait perhaps a year before traveling to Canaan, she answered without a hesitation, "I will go now." Just the way that Abraham accepted his mission, Lech Lecha, from God. What's not to love here? And yet, years later, when she discovers that her aged, blind husband Isaac is about to bless Esau and not her beloved Jacob, another Rebekah emerges, smart, capable of guile, highly skilled in manipulating people so that she can get what she wants. Okay, now, we might say that Rebekah's activities advance the divine plan. Abraham, Isaac has to be Jacob. But some scholars have actually called her behavior deplorable. Gentle, caring, empathetic Rebekah will never see her beloved son again, nor is her death even remarked upon in the Torah text. Her family had been ripped apart, and she stood amidst the smoking ruins. She got what she wanted, and Rebekah was willing to pay the price. So Shai concludes, people are complicated. Indeed, we are. Rebekah continues to teach us that lesson, whether or not she ever walked the earth. The late Rabbi Jonathan Sacks gives us one more example of how the Torah is poised to teach us invaluable lessons about the world that we inhabit. Look at Genesis 25:1. Abraham went on and took a wife named Keturah, close quote. Okay, sounds pretty natural, right? Having had a long and loving relationship with Sarah, Abraham is now bereaved and alone. He takes another wife. He has 6 children with her. We have no background information about Keturah. She emerges fully formed on the pages of the Torah without any history, without any unique identity. So, rabbinic ingenuity kicks in with full force. By manipulating the text and extracting meanings that the original authors of the book of Genesis had not even possibly imagined, the rabbis declared that Keturah is really Hagar. Hagar, the mother of Esau. Hagar, the servant who was expelled from Abraham's home to die in the desert with her son. Now we know that Sarah had coerced Abraham into sending Hagar away, and the rabbis weave stories that had Isaac reaching out to Hagar. It's not in the Torah. After Sarah's death, and arranging a reconciliation between Hagar and her former master. And this, the rabbis suggest, is why the Torah will note that both Isaac and Ishmael came together to be present at Abraham's burial, a reconciliation of blood enemies. You know me. Far be it for me to push such an obviously forced interpretation too far. I'm not even going to mention here, I won't mention here, the Quranic stories about how Abraham then went with Ishmael to build the Kaaba in Mecca. I'm only suggesting that the Torah is rich with possibilities by which we can address the thorniest of conflicts in our own day. Whether we take advantage of those possibilities, actually, is pretty much totally up to us. Have a wonderful Shabbat and a very happy Thanksgiving. See you next week.